Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool. And today let's talk about Klein Allen wrenches or hex keys. The Klein tool company has been making these things for quite a while in a lot of different forms. Initially the Allen or hex head fastener was created, and therefore the need for the hex head wrench. Kind of a chicken and egg thing, which came first, the fastener or the wrench. But it was created by the Allen Manufacturing Company. And the Allen Manufacturing Company started producing these a long time ago, and the first patent for such a shape and a fastener, which they called a safety fastener because it could be recessed. It didn't have to stick up above the workpiece or the metal or whatever. But anyway, the first patent was in 1909, which was a long time ago, if you think about it. But what I want to do is show you some of the differences between these Allen sets. These are all Kleins. They kind of represent a movement through time, if you will. In fact, from oldest to newest. This is the latest of the Klein Allen key sets. Initially, the Allen set was also called an L key because they made the wrenches in these two shapes for two different leverage positions. And then another modification was to add a ball on the end, which meant that you could actually operate the lever at an angle, kind of like how we use wobble sockets. This would be like a wobble Allen wrench. Some people don't like that because it causes or can increase the chance of stripping. Notice that they only do it on essentially the weaker end. Once you get to the strong end, you really need a good solid alignment. But because this is so much shorter than this, there's a really good chance you can get it into the fastener, where if you're working in kind of a restricted environment size-wise, you might need to actually come in at an angle. A lot of them were sold in sets, individual sets, and they really can get small. They can get much smaller than this even. But the issue with the individual sets is you might not have them all together. You've probably all seen toolboxes where there's a pile of these at the bottom. Generally, they are not marked. Some do. The quality ones actually do say what they are, but a lot of them don't. And they're so cheap to manufacture that they often come with products that if they take an Allen key, they'll just include one, which means now there are some pretty cheap soft metal Allen keys. They're almost one-time use. The early combination sets were basically set up a lot like this, where they used a metal housing, a bolt, and then instead of the short end, they just simply wrapped it around into something they could drive a bolt through, and voila, instantly you've got a handle. Now, there's pros and cons to the handles. One of them is you've always got this great big tool no matter which one you're using, and that can have a significant effect. You know, if you're trying to use something small like this particular Allen in a giant handle, two things happen. One is it can be a little cumbersome to use because you've got such a big handle on such a small tool. But the other thing is it's easy to generate so much force you could just snap this thing off without any trouble. It is very handy to have all of them. You also run into the problem of having to fit this entire tool into the space, or just use the muscle over and over if you want to use them. But they can be worth their weight in gold because you always have all of the sizes. This is a SAE. I wish Klein made this one in metric. I don't think they do. But anyway, what's interesting I find is we've gone from a real solid basic design. You can adjust the strength of the resistance, with the screwdriver here, to they moved it up to a plastic handle, pretty solid. It's usually not the stress point of the plastic. You can actually get quite a bit onto or twist it quite hard onto this kind of bolt plastic system. They changed the lengths. This one's a shorter one. Shorter can get into fasteners a little bit easy, reduces the leverage sometimes if you're at an angle, but you can actually do quite a bit even though it's a plastic housing. Now, when you move up to the great big one, you've got a lot of different sizes and a lot of length. This can actually be too long to get into spaces. So, a lot of people carry both. They use this as much as possible, and then they go to their old school one, of individual pieces if they need that. Another thing that I've noticed with these great big ones, if you crank up the resistance, sometimes it makes it harder to deploy the piece, but easier to use because it doesn't swing around. Whereas some of the others, if these move too easily, sometimes, you go to work and then one flops out, or you try to close it up. And as you start, which one was it? This one or this one? Switching back and forth. So I don't mind the heavier resistance. It's a kind of an old tool that just keeps slowly getting upgraded here. And I do think there's probably some room for a new deployment method, but I'm not sure what it is, because this hasn't changed a whole lot, in decades. New materials, colors, more sizes, things like that, and I have a whole array of snap-on ones as well. But I thought it'd be interesting to look through the Klein ones. Anyway, that's where we're headed. I would like to see some innovation here, but I'm not sure exactly where. Because a lot of times I just want a short one, or I want to be able to take it off of the set very quickly. I have seen some that you could do that with, but they generally don't go back on very easy. I don't even know if they still make them. But I think there's some innovation still, instead of just continuing to update the old design without adding really any new features. So I'm looking forward to the day when we've got innovation in the 1909 Allen wrenches. With that, Doc out.